There it is. Croonchy Stars, the Swedish Chef cereal from Post. Man, look at that box. I just love it. No batteries necessary. On the side it says, please read carefully. You will be eating these words. Every star in this box guaranteed to be 5 points or less. Other names considered were Croonchy Poofs and Stupid Flakes, but they ended up going with the star design, so that's why they went with this. At last, it's cinnamon money. At last, it's cinnamon. Here's a mock-up of what the package would have looked like if they went with Stupid Flakes. You can see on there, it says it's clam-proof, and it says it has a free, genuine plastic piece of junk inside, and that it's even newer. This is Jim Henson's notes from 1986 about possible commercial ideas for a Swedish Chef cereal. The first commercial involved the Swedish Chef turning the oven all the way up until it eventually explodes. The second one had the chef loading a blunderbuss rifle full of cereal and then firing that. And then the third one had the chef shooting at the cereal and eventually getting a machine gun and destroying the kitchen. And those commercials ended with Jim Henson's note of, Chef is happy.
Croonchy Stars, great taste from Post and the Swedish Chef.
Like all cereals, there were some premiums that you could mail away for. There was a coffee mug, there was a flashlight that was branded, and there was a Swedish Chef doll you could get. The Swedish Chef debuted in a Muppet special called Sex and Violence.
Presenting the end of sex and violence on television.
His first sketch was very similar to many of the sketches that would follow. The difference was they added Chinese subtitles to it. There were other Muppets that were designed this way, but what was unique about the Swedish Chef was that he had human hands. It was originally Jim Henson would puppeteer the mouth. Frank Oz would operate as the hands. Jim never really knew what Frank was going to do, so the hands were kind of like their own entity. Jim Henson had previously created a chef character called Chef Bernardi.
And then, of course, there's lettuce. Let us add the lettuce, we say. Now then, let's see, we need a raw egg, just to make the salad humorous, you know. Add a couple of yolks.
He had done a segment on the 1966 Mike Douglas show showing how to prepare food in a jiffy.
So, almost forgot the garlic here. You know, we're running short on time, so I'll just toss in this other stuff here.
He prepared a salad flambé.
For 1 minute, salad flambé.
This box contains the following: no trombones, no broccoli, no shoe trees, no wheelbarrows, no parsnips, no Venetian blinds, and no pachyderms. There's a little bit of murkiness as to do with the origins of the Swedish Chef. Some people think that a television chef from Germany called Chef Tell was the inspiration for the Swedish Chef.
Do it just like this, and the first time you do this at home, you over your sink. It's much easier to clean up the sink than clean up this, okay? You don't want to use any Grand Marnier, whatever. You don't have to use it. That's just for flavoring. You can use cognac, you can use peppermint, whatever you want.
There's also a Swedish chef named Lars Bachman who claims that the Swedish Chef was inspired by him. He said he had an unsuccessful appearance on the Today Show, and Jim Henson purchased a copy of it, memorized it, and stole his persona.
Everybody said it's got, well, you got to be the format for the Swedish Chef. Most of my friends have seen the Muppet Show. I said, it's got to be you. You look like it.
Muppet writer Jerry Jules said that he helped Jim come up with the character of the Swedish Chef, and he said he never mentioned any real-life chef. He said instead they brainstormed, they kept trying different accents and voices, just laughed uncontrollably for hours as Jim put together the voice that became the Swedish Chef.
Croonchy Stars, great taste from Post and the Swedish Chef.
Scrumptious.
Unscramble the letters to find out who's cooking. Clue, follow the arrows, and it's got the letters ECFH. So you could unscramble that and get chef. Or you could sort of get fetch. Well, you'd need a T. Well,
stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Now, the Swedish Chef appears to be married. He wears a wedding ring on his finger. Bill Beretta, the performer of Swedish Chef, said the reason is that Steve Whitmire was performing the hands and forgot to take his wedding band off. So since then, Chef's been married. I've talked about this before, but the Smithsonian has way too many things. I've been there a handful of times. I've never seen the Swedish Chef on display, so I'm sure they put them out once a year or whatever, but I've missed them. The puppet that they have at the Smithsonian is an 80s Swedish Chef, but for some reason it has felt puppet hands. They don't know the reason. They think maybe the Henson Company had used these for promotional photos or something and provided them with the puppet when it was sent to the Smithsonian. This puppet was built by Bonnie Erickson, who also created Miss Piggy and the Philly Fanatic.
He's always got a little more energy when the Phillies are winning some games.
In the heart to them now.
Now, the fact that the Swedish Chef doesn't actually speak Swedish has always been a problem. Jim Henson said in the early days of The Muppet Show, he got a letter from somebody angrily saying, hey, that chef is not speaking Swedish. And Jim wrote back, I'm very sorry. We're trying to get him trained on Swedish. He's been taking lessons. Please don't let anyone else know. In Germany, because they know that this voice is clearly not Swedish, they call him the Danish chef. In Sweden, it's reported that they don't like the character at all. They don't get it. They don't think he's funny, and they don't think he sounds or looks Swedish.
And of course, the thing that Americans most associate with Scandinavian cooking is the smorgasbord. And we thought we'd get a look at one from a master preparer of such smorgasbords, Janne Johansson. You know, we have a very famous Swedish chef in the United States. And we brought him with us here today. Swedish chef, it's a great pleasure to have you with us.
This is Daryl Cagle. He's a cartoonist. Today he works as an editorial cartoonist, but from 1979 to 1993, he worked for the Muppets. He worked for Jim Henson Company. He did artwork for Sesame Street puzzles, games, books. He also did stuff for the Muppets, all kinds of products, thermoses, lunchboxes, everything you can think of. And he did a little bit of work for the Swedish Chef.
We're in the Muppet Test Kitchen, where the Swedish Chef is trying to make his delicious star-shaped cereal, new Croonchy Stars, with cinnamon toast taste. It seemed impossible, and then it hit him.
Stars!
He posted on his Twitter some of the cereal boxes that he designed. Now, I don't have one of those, but I want to take a close look at some of the things on this. You could win $1 billion with their spelling contest. Unfortunately, they couldn't tell you what word you had to spell, because if they told you, you'd know how to spell it. So you had to figure out the word for yourself and send it in. You could turn this box into a real diamond. All you had to do was dig a very, very deep hole and leave the box in there for 1,000,000 years. Because it's made out of carbon-based materials, it would become a diamond eventually.
Red diamond makes good coffee. Oop, better coffee. Oh, red diamond makes the best coffee. Congratulations.
Here's another box that he did, and I really love these. Jim Henson said he was a big fan of cereal, but really hated cereal boxes because he said they were boring. Well, this was certainly not boring. It consisted of tons of games that were just weird and didn't make sense and were unwinnable. Here's a section called Ask Swedish Chef. All the answers seem to be best when used by date of June of 1989. No artificial colors, no doorknobs. Swedish Chef might be my favorite of the Muppets. Sesame Street's a little different. I had a lot of favorites from Sesame Street. I like some of the rare characters like Little Bird, Roosevelt Franklin, Sherlock Hemlock, Guy Smiley, all the ones from my childhood that are kind of gone. Don Music, who would play the piano and bang his head into it. I dug up all of my favorites. I put them in a video, which you guys can watch here. Otherwise, YouTube says this is what is best for you. So choose either one. I'll see you next time.